Good morning. It's Friday. That means it's the Friday grief chat time. And we are so excited to have you here. I am Jill.
I am Deb, and this is Pinky Pancake. That's what she goes by. I, of course,
Mhm.
know her like official name on her birth certificate. And I got to tell you, I've known this woman since she was probably 10.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Wow.
yeah, I know. And I was really good friends with her mom. Her mom was one of the most creative women I knew next to myself. And she raised two very creative daughters. And before I get into talking a little bit more about Pinky here and what she does and why we have her on our show today, I just want to say we are just heartbroken over the murders of the two Jewish students, as well as not in the same category, but
Mm-mm.
beloved actor, George Wendt. And our hearts go out to the families, the Jewish families, their families, and the country who is very much affected by terrorism and anti Semitic terrorism. That's all I'm going to say about that, because that would be a whole nother show, and we don't have time for that.
Mm-mm.
So I want to say Pinky is a tattoo artist in Arizona. Uh,
Mhm.
give yourself a plug. Where in Arizona? What's the name of your shop?
I'm in Payson, Arizona, so it's a pretty small town. It's about an hour north of Phoenix. I work mostly by appointment, and my tattoo studio is Sacred Skin Studios. So that's our website, sacredskinstudios.com.
Oh, that's great. And I know Jill's probably putting that in.
I'm going to put it
But
up.
she is really good at writing and talking. Yours truly, not so. And when you and I were first talking, um, at your mom's memorial, really, and
Ironically.
we were talking about, tattoos, grief tattoos, but I'm going to ask you to elaborate, including what you said to me yesterday. What are the three main reasons people get a tattoo? And then you mentioned a lot of different types of memorial tattoos. It's not just when someone dies, but other things,
Mhm.
specifically that 78-year-old woman. And I just
Yes.
love when you told me that story. So I'm going to turn that over to you, the three main reasons, and then just, go squirrel. And then you can start talking.
Okay, so I think that there are a lot of reasons people get tattooed, obviously, but it seems like the majority of people are coming to get tattooed for big life events. And those tend to be the birth of someone, the death of someone, the beginning or end of a relationship. And a lot of times the day they decide to take ownership of their body and their space, they sometimes use it to commemorate feeling ready to express themselves fully. And I think it was just something I'd never thought about until you asked me to do this, is why do people get tattooed? And so I've had a lot of people who come to get tattooed when sometimes when someone passes away, it's also the gateway for, okay, now this is my new life and I'm going to start being myself and living fully. And they use it not only to get them through the grief transition, but to start to enjoy their life or enjoy themselves.
Mm.
And so that lady that you're talking about, I have a client who is at least 75, and her whole marriage to her husband, he didn't prefer tattoos, so she chose not to get them. And when he was sick in hospice and passing away, she decided it was a good time to start getting tattooed. And she just started getting these little beautiful flowers on her arms, and then she would come back and get them on her hand or her leg or her neck. And we did all these sessions with her. And he's been gone for a few years now, and she's fully developed into this person who can really be herself now. And she feels, and she expressed to me that she feels the tattoos helped her to get to that point and really see herself for who she is and who she wants to be.
I love that, because it's a lot of times in grief, Jill and I talk about you don't get over grief. You don't even walk through grief. It's not like you leave it behind, but you integrate it into yourself. And what you're describing is she slowly began integrating a stand that she wanted to take to feel like a whole person. She didn't, as she moved out of one segment of her life, she moved into this other segment, and there was a wonderful overlap. Because a lot of times, I mean, Daryl, this isn't a tattoo, but this was big for him, right? After his mother died, all of a sudden, I don't know, I came back from a trip and he's got a mustache. And I said, "What's that?" And he says, "I'm finally getting a mustache. I couldn't have it while my mom was still alive. She didn't like mustaches." And I'm like, "Good for you."
It's
likewise. Say again.
It's a claiming of a new identity as a result of the loss.
Right.
And the tattoo is also that continuing tie to the person who has died. And it gives you the chance to explain who they were and that relationship to someone who's never met the person who died. Because people ask about tattoos.
And it always seems like there is another story with a tattoo. There's always a story, right? Whatever the story is, whether it's a short story because it's one flower, or maybe it's quite elaborate, or maybe it just has a date, or it has just one saying, and that becomes part of their integration of a story. Can you share some other types of integration, memorial tattoos? Maybe what did they look like? Or
I have some pictures of in my portfolio books if you want me to just hold them for you.
That'd be awesome.
Up or whatever.
Yeah.
So one kind of memorial tattoo, which is sometimes very common, is to do a portrait of the person. So if they have a nice picture, they might have a portrait done. So I have a couple in this book. I don't know if you'll be able to see really well. Oh, it's okay. You can see it.
Oh, yeah. No, we can. Oh, those are beautiful.
Oh, you did.
For those who are listening to this on the podcast, I really want you to go onto the page Humor, Grace, and Grief on Facebook so you can see these beautiful images.
Oh my gosh.
These are portraits, and this one's the gentleman's mother. And then this one would be the other person's father here.
Wow.
And so that's one way that people can memorialize or have a grief expression, is to have the portrait done. So a lot of people will do that. Like you said, a lot of people will just get a name or a date or something simple like that. And sometimes they'll just kind of combine those things with the image itself. Some people don't want to have the name or the date because they don't want to explain it all the time. And they might just get a picture of something that reminds them of that loved one. Some people want to talk about it and want to have the date and want to really, tell someone the story of who that was and what happened. So I have, like, this one's kind of funny. This one is a memorial tattoo.
Oh my gosh, it's a cheeseburger. Oh my goodness.
Sandwich.
Big old sloppy one. It's awesome.
That
So
is
she
great.
got the sandwich to remind her of her friend because that was what he always ate. So sometimes you do something like that. And then I have another example. This one is just beautiful roses. And
Oh,
the thing that's significant about this one is at the bottom you can see that the person's gotten their loved one's actual handwriting. So sometimes
wow.
people will come and we can actually take the handwriting from a birthday card or something, and you can just basically copy it right onto them and they can have their signature or something like that. So those are just a few examples of some things that people have done to memorialize their loved ones or to kind of get through their grief. But there's all different ways. It runs the full spectrum of the most simple thing you can think of that's like just a name, all the way up to a sandwich.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's very personal to people.
Yes.
You know, Mandy, you and I were also talking yesterday. It was incredible when you talked about different tattoo artists.
Mhm.
And while their skill might be great,
Mhm.
their essence while the person is getting a tattoo, be it a memorial or not, can you talk a little bit about your personal philosophy and some of the examples you were giving me yesterday?
Yeah, I think that they're all different kinds of tattoo artists, be it with their visual art or their, let's call it their bedside manner, just like anything, you know, sometimes you get a doctor that's very interactive with you and then sometimes you get one that stops in and basically tells you what's wrong and walks out of the room. So I think that no matter what you do, you know, you're going to have a variation in that. But for me, when I work with people, I think that the connection that you make with that person just because of the service that you're providing for them, I mean, it's a very uncomfortable, it can be an uncomfortable thing for the person. And sometimes they're going through a hard time if they're getting a grief tattoo specifically. So I try really hard to remember to be very present with my clients and to always try to provide them with what they need in the moment. Sometimes they just need to have a little fun and get a small thing, and you might never see them again. And sometimes they really need to have a conversation or connection with you about what's happening and how they're feeling. And they might tell you things that they wouldn't tell someone else. And so I just try to treat everyone like it's my responsibility to take care of them and to be mindful of their needs at the time. Because I think, like I told you, I've had people come to see me who have had bad experiences with their artist, maybe not because the tattoo was done wrong, but just because they weren't comfortable. And that doesn't mean there was anything wrong with the artist, but it might have meant it was the wrong one for them.
It was the wrong connection.
Yeah.
Wrong connect. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I try to be mindful of where they're at, what they need, what they want to talk about. And honestly, most of the time, if I've had a pretty significant amount of time with someone, we end up having a pretty close bond. And it goes beyond just giving them tattoos. It's kind of a relationship that you develop with the person.
Right.
That's what you were telling me yesterday. Like, because they keep coming back to you, get invited to like life event parties.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this. And I'm like, wow, that's just beautiful.
You know, something that comes to mind
Yeah.
about that is that we had a client years ago who came into our studio and he said, "Hey, I've got cancer. I'm dying. I've always wanted a back piece." And he then contracted to have his entire back tattooed, which took several sessions. And then he got well and he was feeling better. And we got to meet his family and, you know, his kids and everything. But he was coming in still regularly to have his tattoos done. And he was kind of like the whole shop's client. Everybody worked on him a little bit. And then subsequently, a few years later, unfortunately, he did pass from his cancer. But because of that bond that we had with him, my husband painted his casket, and we were invited to the funeral and to just be a part of that because we were a part of the end of his life and what was kind of helping him get through. So that's just an example of what I'm talking about. You know, you don't intend for those things to happen, but they just do sometimes.
That's just absolutely just beautiful when
It's
people
very-
make a connection.
It's very much like a relationship with a hospice team or with a therapist or with a chaplain. It's you are the person that they found that provides the support, whether while they are dying or after their loved one has died, so that they can have that connection, and they've got a connection to you because you knew them in the living. And that's important for folks. That's that continuing bond piece that you knew them, and that's incredibly important.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And that you listened and heard them, because so many people don't feel heard at that time.
You're present. And that's what Jill and I talk about many times when you're with someone who is grieving any kind of loss and just being present. So I have a couple other questions. Some might sound bizarre, but that's Jill and I include.
We do that.
We do that.
Yes.
So one of the questions I have is, what was your hardest tattoo to ever do? Not necessarily it could be in skill, but emotionally hard to be with that person.
Yeah, you know, I have two that come to mind. The first one is a young lady that I think I mentioned yesterday who came to get tattooed on the day that her child passed away. I don't necessarily think, now that I've had experience, I don't necessarily think that I would recommend doing that because I think that it imprints the desperate grief on the tattoo rather than a memorial per se. It's more of
the clinging and the needing to hold on.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that was appropriate for her to feel, but I feel like she was in so much pain that from her grief that the tattoo would be a source of trauma. So that was very difficult. And, you know, her whole family came in and there was a lot of really strong emotion there. So it's difficult to complete the task at that point. And then another one that comes to mind is another lady who had been through some sort of accident, or I think it was an illness, and she was probably in her late 50s and she had lost her leg. And she wasn't very well, but you know, I decided to do her tattoo because she really wanted it. And she just was in so much grief from her illness.
Right.
And she just couldn't really conceptualize herself. And
she'd lost part of her identity and her self-image.
Yeah. And so she was very emotional during her process because she was in physical pain from her illness and from her tattoo. And because she just was in a place where she didn't really know where she was going or who she was. So I think those two are the ones that come to mind as far as the experience being difficult.
Out of those, sort of the other spectrum, what was the most exciting or fun tattoo that you ever did?
You know,
doesn't have to be a memorial. I mean, just in general.
You know, I think a lot of them can be really fun. I think the most fun ones are when you get a group of a few people and they're all going to get something together and they're celebrating and they're going back and forth with each other and everyone's taking pictures and it's like an event for them because, you know, I do it every day. So it is pretty run of the mill and routine in terms of the experience. But when someone's so excited about just getting to do this thing together or even by themselves. I think
Right.
those are the ones that are the most fun to do. And then on another level, the ones that are fun in a different way are the ones where you're really getting to do some beautiful creative expression, or the person allows you to just draw whatever you want for them. I've had a few friends allow me to draw large tattoos like back pieces or something that's just for them, and they allow me to make it for them the way that I think it should be, and they don't change it. And those are wonderful because you really get to do a creative expression for yourself that's appropriate for the person, and then you get to experience enjoying the time with them.
That's the art piece of it that I just find exceptional. I wish I could have tattoos. I can't because of a medical condition, but we have our youngest daughter had this mole on the back of her lower calves that it could never be removed because it would have required skin grafts. She nearly failed PE because of it, because she wouldn't put shorts on for years. And so we said, when you turn 18, we'll put it in a sunflower. And before she turned 18, we lost her birth mom and my first wife, one of her adoptive moms. And so she went with her older sister, who was getting a memorial tattoo for the moms that they'd lost. And they came home after they had spent 2 full days with an artist in Sacramento. And she didn't have a sunflower. She had Van freaking Go on the back of her leg.
Oh, wow.
It has 3 sunflowers. It wraps around. It looks like it came off a canvas.
Wow.
And you can't tell there's a mole there anymore because it's completely integrated. And then the other one got, and she just said, do it. And that's what they did. And then the other one got this beautiful memorial tattoo with a whale tail and a sea turtle. I lost 2 wives, one for each of the moms. But instead of just those, they were set into the ocean with the sunset and the rays, and you could just tell that somebody had connected to them and taken their story and turned it into something just for them.
Yeah.
And that's what matters at moments like that.
Yeah.
Whether it's getting rid of the old mole or whether it's memorializing someone.
You know, I did that with my tattoo. It covered up a cancer scar. And I picked out all the elements, but it was completely designed by I just told her what I wanted in there.
Yeah.
And it really helped. One, I reclaimed my body. I reclaimed who I was. I made a statement for me, and this tattoo was just for me, just to make a statement and also allow myself. I always thought there was this woman in our yoga class that her tattoo would peek out beneath her shirt, like on her arm. And I said, to me, that was, and I don't mean this totally sexual, but it was, to me, that was sexy. And since I would never allow myself to feel that way, I did when I had a tattoo that it would just peek out. It's like, and then there's more.
Yeah.
That's what I loved about it. What's the story behind it?
Right.
And
my late wife Linda did that when she had 3 mastectomies. First one for cancer. Second one was because they put in a really bad implant and it hurt. And so when she had that done, she also had the other breast removed out of an abundance of precaution, which it turned out was a good idea. She did die cancer free, and she was very proud of that. But she also had the kids draw. They did a watercolor of a pink ribbon with a flower wrapped around it, and some background, and then they took it to the tattoo artist, and on her very flat chest that she never had reconstructed again, the artist interpreted that drawing so that she could go topless and feel good about herself and reclaim the miles of surgical scars that she had.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a sort of a emotional connect the dots,
Mm-hmm.
to integrate whatever it is that you need to integrate, a visual representation of that. And however you can get there, I'm all for,
Covering scars was something I didn't even consider, because that is another form of grief and transition. And I've covered self-harm scars on people where they're done with that part of their life and they don't want to look at it anymore. I've covered, like you described, mastectomy scars or surgery scars, and it's just it just changes their lives. I mean, their lives have already been changed by whatever they went through, and then the ability, they felt helpless in that case, and then having the tattoo put over it makes them feel like they've taken, like you said, like the agency back over themselves. And that's a really interesting aspect I hadn't really thought about either.
And it worked out well because we were stopped by the TSA in Las Vegas, and they pulled Linda out. She was on oxygen at that point. And they decided that she didn't appear to look like her gender on her driver's license because she didn't have breasts. And they started to go after her, and I had to hold Chloe back. I thought she was going to bite the TSA agent, and that's my daughter, not my dog. And Linda was just like, I'll show you. And she unbuttoned her shirt, and they were horrified. And she did a complete 360 to show everyone in the waiting area. Yeah. Yep. I did have breasts. They tried to kill me. Now I have my body back. So then she threatened to undo her pants and drop them. And then they got all kinds of scared and let us go. But that tattoo gave her sense of dignity and pride back, that this is her body and she had survived what tried to kill her.
Yeah.
Right.
The other part, when I got that tattoo, also knowing, I mean, I can't tell you how many people say you won't be able to be buried in a Jewish cemetery. I said, I'm already going against the grain. I'm going to be cremated. So I won't be buried in a Jewish cemetery. That is correct. And so I remember thinking to myself, that's my first cancer scar. More will be coming. I'm taking control now. This is me. I'm going to make the first move. It's much like women. They don't recommend that you shave your head before you start chemo, because that could cause a nick or a bump or whatever. But as your hair falls out, you make it really, really short. And you take the agency while letting go of your hair, which is important to many people. You take control. You don't, it's sort of like, you're not going to win.
Right. This is my decision. Right. I'm in control of this moment. I may not be in control of everything, but I can control what happens to this part of my body.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly. So, well, this has been a great conversation.
Thank you for being here. I have posted sacredskentattoo.com/pinky-pancake on our chat, and I will put it also in the notes. For those of you who are listening to the podcast later, please this time go onto the Facebook page, Humor, Grace, and Grief, and take a look at the amazing work behind Pinky in her studio and the book images that she showed us, and then go to her site, I have perused it. It is incredible. It will bring probably tears to your eyes and thoughts to your head about what you might want to do. Ian says I need a zipper tattoo where I have my hip replacement scar.
Yes, yes, yes. We have said
Mhm.
that about Daryl too.
Or maybe an elevator and we could turn it into like an escalator or something. Climbing all the way to the top.
She could do
Thank you for being here so much. We
Thank you for
appreciate
having
it.
me. I really enjoyed
Thank you,
getting to
Pinky.
chat with you.
And
Oh.
I'll be in Arizona in a couple weeks. My daughter has just moved to Goodyear.
Oh, that's
So,
gonna be fabulous.
Yes. So I am. My wife is a tattoo connoisseur. So I can foresee some other trips, not the one where we're moving her, but some other trips to Phoenix will involve a trip to Payson, because Payson's a cute little town too. If
Yeah,
you
it's
have not
awesome.
been there, it's an adorable town. So make sure you
Yeah.
get yourself there.
That's what I've been thinking. My next tattoo will be by Pinky.
Yes.
We would have so much fun.
I'll
Yeah.
come watch. I can't have one, but I'll come watch.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds
Thank you
great.
for being here.
Thank you.
Every-
I appreciate
Everybody
it.
have a good weekend. Next week, we're going to be having caregiver grief for people who are in the middle of caregiving and the losses that happen while you're making the decision to be the caregiver, to stick it out, to be there long distance, in person, all the things that go with caregiving, which are 1,000 different kinds of grief all at the same time. We have 2 amazing guests who are
Yes.
coming to be with us. So we'll see you next week. Pinky, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.